What is up, everybody? It is your local Ottawa fan, and I'm here today to talk to you about the 24-12 loss to Montreal. I'm an Irish fan, so Minnesota, Montreal. We've been seeing all my football teams lose. This wasn't a good game. Our defense, they did good. They didn't do great, though, and I think this is a game where they did need to be great because Montreal's was. Unlike our other game against Montreal, this one was very winnable. And I think that's both a positive and a negative. It's a positive because Montreal is a damn good team. Montreal is a damn good team. Sorry, I had to get my lights on. I needed to shine a spotlight on this game because again, I feel weird. And like I said last game, if we lose to Montreal and Saskatchewan, it's panic mode time. Hamilton felt like a trap game. That felt like the game that, we go in, we expect to win, we should win. It's Hamilton. We should easily beat them. And, oh man, but because, of that, they get us. This game felt like a scheduled loss. I think most of us knew that we probably weren't going to go completely undefeated at home. If we go 7-1-1 at home, that is phenomenal. If we beat Hamilton and we go 7-1-1 at home, that's phenomenal. If we go 6-2-1 at home and host a playoff game, I like those odds. I wouldn't like those odds as much because the 2 losses would be our last 2 home games. But still, I can't be that mad that the best team in the league, the Grey Cup favorites by far, a team that has only lost twice all season, and they lost to 2 good teams. I mean, their loss to Toronto, their starter went down with injury. So I can't fully be like, they sucked against Toronto. There were outside factors that played into that, and their losses against BC, it was, Nathan Rourke's been very good since his return. He's been great. Yeah, the game against Toronto wasn't, but not ready to discredit him over one bad game. And we'll get into discrediting quarterbacks over one bad game soon, don't worry. But Montreal's a hard team to beat. Yeah, Calgary stole a tie from them. And I think that is one thing. When Calgary almost beats Montreal, when we lose to Hamilton, when Hamilton's actually kind of going on a tear, it is easy to say, any given game, any given week, any team can win, and we're so good at home. Now, to be fair, they've never lost as the away team. So this was a big, big battle. And going into this game, I thought we would probably lose between, like if I was being honest with myself, I was thinking probably 10 to 14 points. And we would keep it generally close, but would never really be in it because Montreal is that good. After our first game, I was like, I don't know how we would beat Montreal. I don't know. And now, if we were to make the playoffs and get to the East Division Final, because let's be real, Montreal's hosting the East Division Final. Everything would need to go wrong for that to not be the case. We'd have to win out. They'd have to lose out. That's the only way. And I do not think that is a realistic outcome. I think they probably clinch home East Division Final next week. Personally, that's what I think is going to happen. I think they will beat Toronto. But if we face them and we have this game happen again, and we just clean up our mistakes and hopefully get a little healthier, I'm telling you, Pimpleton was sorely missed this game. So sorely missed. Same with Addison. Yes, Pickett as well. But again, our defense had a good game, not a great game. The game starts. Our defense 2-0. We got a good drive to start. We got a few first downs. We did punt, but they were, they were stopped basically immediately. And we got the ball back at their 41 because they were shoved back. And we get into makeable Ward field goal range. And Brown throws a pick 6, and we're down 7-0 immediately. We had 3 turnovers, all in very, very makeable field goal range. And one of those turnovers went back for a pick 6. So that's, in my opinion, 15 points we lost to turnovers in a game where we lost by 12, and we did not get a single turnover. And that's what I mean by the defense wasn't great. If that was counteracted by the defense getting some clutch turnovers, you know, Montreal looks like they are about to score. They're at least getting 3 points out of this drive, and we get a turnover. Or Montreal is stuck way back in their territory. We get a turnover, and we turn that into 3 or 7 points. Okay, you know, then I can swallow that pick 6. But in a game where, let's be honest, we gave up 15 points to turnovers, we desperately needed some of our own, and we did not get a single one. There was not one turnover for us in the entire game. At the same time, the defense's job is to stop offense. And our defense held the Montreal Alouettes to under 20 points. Our defense was exceptionally good against the scariest team in the league. And if we didn't throw that pick 6, if it was just a pick and he went down immediately, I'm not convinced that they would have gone marching down the field to score 7 points. And then it makes us going for it on 3rd down a lot less certain. Because instead of being down 12, we'd be down 5. Okay, you know, kick a field goal, get the ball back. And then you can win the game. Versus go for broke and potentially risk blowing it. Our defense did good. I don't want to pin this game on them. Because, yes, it's easy to say, oh, if we got turnovers, we could have won the game. We lost the turnover battle. And when you lose the turnover battle, it's because your offense is turning the ball over. And Brown, who normally doesn't turn it over, had 2 picks. The first one isn't really his fault. The receiver was falling. He slipped. That's why he didn't make the catch. Second one wasn't nearly as good. But it's 7-0, and we got back to their 35. Okay, 7-3, and again, it's another pick. And I was thinking after that it might be Mazzoli time. And the monkey paw curled. Because Brown goes down with injury. Mazzoli played well. He did play well. Before he got in, we did have some good drives. We got to their 17. We got the ball back. We got the ball back after the second pick, and we did make it 7-3. But again, you see where it could have been 9-0 Ottawa to start the game. It could have been 3 field goals if we don't throw any picks. It's 9-0 to start the game. How different does this game look if the first quarter ends 9-0 Ottawa instead of 7-3 Montreal? How different does the rest of this season feel if we have a gutsy win against Montreal instead of back-to-back losses? This game makes it feel like, okay, you know, we're the second best team in the East if things hold. Hamilton is definitely moving up the ranks. And if I'm going to go on a side tangent very quick. If there's one thing to be happy about this game, it's this. Edmonton lost. Edmonton lost to Winnipeg. And irregardless of how we play for the remainder of the season, next week, Hamilton plays BC. A good team. Edmonton plays Winnipeg. A good team. A team that just beat Edmonton in Edmonton. Now they're going to Winnipeg. If BC beats Hamilton and Winnipeg beats Edmonton, we make playoffs. If Hamilton and Edmonton both lose a game, we could never get another point all season, and we would still have a ticket to the dance. We are knocking on that door, and everything would need to go wrong for us to not make it. Because if Hamilton does win out, Toronto's still behind by 3 points. They would still need to find a way to overcome us. And we still are better than literally every team in the West. This would require 3 teams in the West also leapfrogging us. It would require the Ticats, the Argos, and 3 teams in the West who are all currently behind us in the standings to leapfrog us. So the good news is this game could end up just being kind of meaningless, because I think if we were all honest with ourselves, we probably weren't going to beat Montreal twice down the stretch. But this game could have been. This is very much a what could have been game. Montreal gets a rouge. We have 2-0. Montreal gets the ball back. They start their drive at the 6. We desperately need a stop. And we get it. Get to their 46. Have to punt. Montreal finally starts moving the ball. Our defense is getting tired because our offense isn't having a lot of sustained drives. And after a PI deep in our territory, 14-3 Montreal. And offensively, we actually, like, in terms of yards and first downs, we did pretty well. I think we did better than Montreal, just in terms of yards and first downs. But we couldn't get points on the board. Montreal could. The other thing, I said turnovers, big plays as well. A PI called deep in our territory. It was a lawn bomb PI, a pick 6. These big, big plays that cost us. That cost us a whole bunch. They don't get the extra point, but it's still 14-3. And now we're down 2 scores. And another 2 and out. Brown goes down. They get a huge reception, and we got to stop. Montreal challenges free PI, but the play does stand. So, okay, it's 17-3. So it's still 2 scores, but now it's a full 14. And this is when Mazzoli comes in. Mazzoli had a good game, but again, he didn't have a great game. We get to their 35, the 3-minute warning hits. 2 penalties turn a 2nd and 4 to a 2nd and 19. 17-6. If that's how the half ends, okay. Sure, we don't get the ball back, but 11 points, that's manageable. And instead, we give up a field goal in not much time. And it's 20-6. We aren't looking good. Again, we give up a lot of points in the first half to Montreal without doing much. Again, the final score was 24-12. I have to reiterate, we held Montreal to 4 points for an entire half of football. The Alouettes were held to 4 points. 4. But we only scored 6. We scored 1 touchdown drive, went for 2 points, did not get it. And when we did that, to fast forward, because they got a rouge to start, and we score, so it's 21-12. If we kick a field goal here, I mean, not a field goal, but if we go for 1 point to make it 21-13, it's an 8-point 1-score game. It had not been a 1-score game in a while. And we went for 2 and we didn't get it. And, like, I get that you do kind of have to go for the 2 eventually. The reason why I'm not as fond of this call, though, is if you make it an 8-point game, the rouge becomes a lot more available. And it gets us to a situation of, you know, if we could get to, say, they're like 50 and punt, if they just accept the rouge because we're still up 7, we're still up a score, it makes certain things easier later in the game. If we kick it and it's an 8-point game, it makes other decisions easier to swallow. But we don't get it. And, you know, we need a stop. This is the one time where it did look like we got a stop on 3rd and 1, but it wasn't like super obvious, and it was given to Montreal. This was our one chance, though, I think, to have gotten the game back in our favor. Because we're still down 9. If we get a stop and get the ball back and we're down 9 and we finally have some momentum, I think that could have been useful. No. Montreal just plain beat us. We got to stop. Offense needs to get the job done. They don't. We got nothing done all game on our offense. They get a big return, instant field goal range. They get a field goal. We go for it, 3rd and 5 at their 25. Don't get it. At their 25, that was the 3rd turnover in Ward makeable field goal range. And again, if we don't go that pick 6 and instead kick a field goal, don't even kick a field goal. You just take 7 points off the board here. You take 7 points off the board, and instead of it being 21-12, it's 14-12. You could go for 2, or you could kick the 1 because now a field goal still puts you up. Either way, it works. And again, you take that pick 6 out of there, and instead of it being 21-12, instead of it being 21-12, it's 14-12. Now you're thinking, great, field goal gives us the lead. When they kick a field goal to go up 5, we just can kick that field goal because there was about 7 or 8 minutes left. But down 24-12, down 12 points, I do get it. Like, we kind of have to make a decision. We need to get a touchdown. We got 1 touchdown all game. All game. Our offense didn't show up. We got outplayed. Our defense did. Our defense showed up. Again, I can, especially when you consider they did also get 2 rouges, which, like, isn't really fully on the defense, if you ask me. Like, yeah, it's for field positioning, you know, but our special teams could have, you know, ran it out or something. And that's like 9 points. 9 points that I don't think you can blame on the defense. And you take 9 points away, well, now it's 15-12. Like, I think you could say pretty solidly our defense gave up 15 points. There are 15 points that you could pin on the defense and say they are the reason why Montreal scored those 15 points. We scored 12 and had 3 turnovers in a part of the field that Ward is automatic in. Ward went out twice all game. And both times, perfect. But at the same time, you don't become a contender overnight. You have these games. And this is the type of game that we can learn from. And when we face Montreal next, it'll be good to have this in our back pocket. Because the next time we face Montreal, one of 2 things. Thing number 1 is they've clinched first in the East. Next week, either we lose or they win, or we lose and they win. And they clinch first. Or we win, clinch a playoff spot, and they lose. And now all of a sudden, our Thanksgiving game has a whole lot more meaning because they're up by 6 points. But if we win and they lose next week, then they're only up by 4 points with 3 games left, and they face us. If we win that game, then all of a sudden, that door opens up. And the other thing is, if Montreal has locked up first place, And we have not clinched a playoff spot, i.e. we lose to Saskatchewan. They don't need to really do anything else. We lose to Saskatchewan. Who cares what they do against Toronto? We are fighting for our lives. They are not. And we at least gave them a game. And it might not be worth it for them to play their starters. There was a lot of injuries this game, and it might make sense for them to maybe rest some players who they really want to make sure they have for the playoffs, especially since they do have another game anyways. So if they want a game to get the rust off, they could put them in the fourth quarter, last game of the season, get some reps in. We still, other games went our way. As much as I want to clinch the playoffs, Hamilton beating Toronto is good for us. We keep our 3-point lead on Toronto. And we are very close to clinching a home playoff berth. Next week, I believe, we could do it. No, I'm wrong about that. But we could get damn close. If we beat Saskatchewan and Montreal beats Toronto, well, then we have a 5-point lead on Toronto with 3 games left. Toronto needs to be perfect. We need to drop everything. We'd be that much closer. And the other thing, like I said, Montreal might be resting starters. We do face Saskatchewan. Yes, they beat Calgary, but also that's Calgary. Saskatchewan's looked really bad as of late. I think that either Saskatchewan or Calgary, one of those two teams are the teams that have looked the worst most recently. Yes, we've had a bad stretch of games recently. Winning 1 out of 4 is not that good. At least we kept one of the 2 losses, at least kind of close. Well, the same with Hamilton, but we only made it close towards the end. But Saskatchewan has been a bad football team for quite a while now. And one win against the lowly Calgary Stampeders doesn't convince me that they're all of a sudden a big threat. That's why I say if we lose to them, then it's time to really panic. Then this is that late season collapse that, a lot of Ottawa fans fear will happen. If we can't find a way to beat Saskatchewan, then yeah, it's time to ring all the alarm bells. It's time to just go into full panic mode, and I'd have no words. But if we beat Saskatchewan, we're in. And also, we could still lose to Saskatchewan and make the playoffs. In fact, we could lose to Saskatchewan and host a playoff game. We could lose out and host a playoff game. Because Toronto would only get 2 points out of us if they lose their other games. Like I said, it's a weird feeling. I'm a lot saltier than last game. Because now, it's back-to-back losses. 3 games out of 4 have been losses. That's a bad trend. It's really bad to have that at the end of the season when we're getting ready for playoffs. I'd rather have this at the beginning of the season. But at the same time, as a REDBLACKS fan, I think it was vital that our season started off well. Because the best thing of this game was the fans. 23,000 strong. This was the biggest game that the REDBLACKS have played in a long time. A chance to clinch a playoff spot, playing against the best team in the league. And while we didn't do it, if we still end up hosting a playoff game, and we know that going into October 28th, we're going to see a lot of fans at that game. If we get, I'd say even 1 win on this road trip, I think we're going to see a lot of people show up for the Hamilton game. And I think that's what's important. That this team does feel back. That this is reminding me of 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, the golden age of Ottawa REDBLACKS football. But we aren't until we're in. And you don't want to back into the playoffs. I feel weird now. I can't tell you how weird the video would be if we lose to Saskatchewan, but have also clinched a playoff spot, and Montreal beats Toronto. And so it's we lost, but also nothing really changed, and we're still one step closer to hosting a playoff game, actually. So, yeah, you make of that what you will. Like, if Hamilton loses, and Edmonton loses, and we lose, and Toronto loses, then it's like, great. We made the playoffs. We're on a losing streak, but Toronto's also on a huge skid. We might end up facing them, and they might suck more than us, so who knows? But I'm an Ottawa Charge fan. I'm an Ottawa sports fan. I know that you don't make it until you make it. And with recent trends, we got to hit that reset button. Got to go into Saskatchewan, get a win. And honestly, just show up in the Montreal game, no matter who's there. Starters or no. Show up and do your best. Because this time, we gave them a fight. And we have not given the Montreal Alouettes a fight in a very, very long time. And we've beaten Hamilton and Toronto, teams that we didn't beat forever. We've beaten Saskatchewan before. We almost beat them last game. We beat them, and then we lost to them, and then we tied with them. But we know that we can beat them. We know this. Yeah, there's injuries, but we can rise above this. We can still clinch. We still have 4 more shots, and we're also going to be watching other teams. And as always, go Ottawa, go.